She told me, if you truly loved me, you'd co-sign this loan for my ex. He just needs a fresh start. I chuckled. She didn't. But the day she walked into the bank with him, the paper she saw laid out on the desk turned the entire story upside down. Every relationship seems to have that one person lingering on the sidelines, waiting for it to collapse. For me, that person was Maya's ex, Kevin. He wasn't so much a man as he was a living, breathing bad investment. For reasons I could never fully grasp, Maya believed he was destined for greatness. For 4 years, I thought Maya and I were building a steady future together. We shared my condo, the first place I bought with real money I'd earned, and we lived as a team, or so I assumed. She was a marketing manager, sharp and magnetic, and I believed we had the same vision. We'd opened a joint savings account for a house. We dreamed aloud about marriage, children, the works. The blueprint for our future was clear and practical. But even the most carefully planned portfolio has that one sentimental, high-risk junk bond. For Maya, that was Kevin. He was a walking cautionary tale. A man in his early 30s who never really graduated from the lazy ambitions of college life. His career path was serial entrepreneur, which really meant he launched a new revolutionary idea every 6 months. None of which ever got further than a flashy logo and a desperate call for money from friends or family. Kevin had the polished charm of a used car salesman, and carried around an air of constant victimhood. The universe was always against him. Investors were blind. Timing was unfair. He was forever the misunderstood genius. And Maya? She never stopped buying it. Their history together was a constant, quiet wedge between us. Maya had this overpowering savior complex when it came to Kevin. She'd dated him long before me and still clung to the image of him as the brilliant, unappreciated visionary. She saw herself as the one who truly understood him. The net that caught him when he fell, his cheerleader, and as I would soon discover, his personal line of credit. Just one big break is all he needs, she'd say every time one of his brilliant schemes fizzled out, leaving him unable to pay rent again. He's not like you, Jake. He doesn't have your stability. He's a creative. I'd simply nod and swallow my words. Jealous? No. I'm not built that way. I'm a financial advisor. I assess risks for a living. And Kevin was the riskiest, most doomed venture I'd ever seen. But I loved Maya, so I tried to trust her judgment, even as every warning bell inside me blared. Then came last month. Kevin had, according to him, finally struck gold. A gourmet farm-to-table food truck. This, he claimed, was his masterpiece. He had a name, a logo, and a vague plan to sell overpriced tacos. All he needed now was $100,000 to buy the truck and launch his dream. Every bank he approached had laughed him out the door. His credit score was abysmal. He had no assets, and his business plan was literally scribbled on a napkin. So as always, he turned to his safety net, Maya. And Maya turned to me. She sat me down one evening, her face earnest, brimming with heartfelt conviction. She spoke about Kevin's dream, how this was his one chance to prove himself. Then came her request. He just needs a co-signer, Jake, she said, eyes wide, full of pleading hope. The bank told him that with a strong co-signer, the loan is practically guaranteed. I waited for the punchline. There wasn't one. You want me, I said slowly, to co-sign a $100,000 loan for your ex-boyfriend. A man who has failed at every single project he's ever touched? Her expression hardened. The pleading disappeared, replaced by cold disappointment. I knew you wouldn't get it, she said sharply. This isn't about you. This is about helping someone who's struggling. This is about compassion. Then she leaned in and delivered her final blow. She took my hand and whispered, if you truly loved me, you'd do this. You'd co-sign the loan for my ex. He deserves a chance to start again. This is a test of your commitment, to me, and to what matters to me. A test. That's what she called it. She wanted me to put my financial future on the line to bankroll the fantasy of a proven disaster. And she framed it as a measure of my love. I did something she didn't expect. I laughed. Not cruelly. Not mockingly. It was the kind of laugh you let slip when a client asks if they should put their entire retirement savings into a company that sells diet water for cats. A laugh of sheer disbelief from someone who had just been handed the worst investment pitch of his career. She didn't laugh. Her face stiffened with anger. I'm serious, Jake. I know, I said calmly, the laughter fading into an icy professional composure. And that's the most disturbing part. I could see the fight ahead. The tears, the accusations of being heartless. But you don't argue with a bad investment. You divest. And suddenly, I saw the cleanest way to do it. Neat, undeniable, and devastating. All right, I said at last, letting my tone shift into business mode. I'll do it. Her anger vanished instantly, replaced by stunned, triumphant relief. You will. I will, I confirmed. On one condition. I don't sign a thing without doing my due diligence. That's how I work. All three of us, you, me, and Kevin, will go to my bank. We'll sit down with my loan officer, Carol, who's handled my accounts for over a decade. Kevin can present his business plan, and we'll review all the numbers. If Carol deems it a reasonable risk, I'll sign right then and there. Maya was ecstatic. She threw her arms around me, calling me the best man alive. To her, this was nothing more than a box to tick, a formality before getting what she wanted. She didn't realize I wasn't preparing to approve a loan. I was arranging a full-scale liquidation of our relationship. She phoned Kevin immediately, her voice bubbling with excitement. He was overjoyed. To them, it was a shared victory, the two of them, finally pulling me onto their team. They believed the money was as good as theirs. What they didn't realize was that they weren't on the verge of funding a dream. They were about to watch everything crash into bankruptcy. In the days leading up to the meeting, Maya floated around as though she'd won a battle. She treated me with smug, patronizing kindness, as though she had finally guided her narrow-minded boyfriend toward enlightenment. Kevin was even worse. He called me, for the first time ever, just to thank me. Man, I really appreciate you stepping up, he said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. Maya always told me you'd come through eventually. Deep down you were a decent man. I suppose you just needed a nudge to finally see the bigger picture. I casually told him I was eager to review his business proposal. That week, I prepared thoroughly. Digging into Kevin's past wasn't even necessary. His life was practically an open archive of failures. Instead, I turned my focus inward, combing through my own finances, especially the quiet but steady drain that had been bleeding me dry for the past 2 years. Maya was clever about it. She never asked me for large, glaring amounts. It was always little requests. Can you cover my car payment this month? I'm short. My credit card is maxed out. Can you grab these groceries on yours? Or, Kevin needs $500 to fix his van. I'll pay you back next week. But she never did. Of course, I let it slide. I loved her, and I could afford it. In my mind, it was just part of the acceptable losses of a long-term relationship. But now I stopped calling it a loss. I redefined it as debt. I poured over 2 years' worth of bank statements and credit card bills, tracking every single dollar that had left my pocket to support her, or to cover her side of expenses beyond our agreed 50-50 household split. Every forgotten car payment. Every student loan installment she conveniently ignored. Every Venmo request she had sent me. I even traced cash withdrawals from our joint account, matching them against texts where she mentioned helping Kevin. The total shocked even me. Nearly $20,000 siphoned from me into her lifestyle and Kevin's bottomless pit. I compiled it all into one meticulous, damning spreadsheet. Then I asked my lawyer to draft 2 documents. The first, a formal loan agreement, turning that $20,000 into a legally binding debt from Maya to me, with standard interest, payable in full when our domestic partnership ended. The second, the dissolution of that partnership itself. When the meeting day arrived, I found Maya and Kevin waiting in the bank lobby, looking smug and self-assured. Kevin wore a brand new suit, likely bought with the last of Maya's credit. He carried a slim folder, his so-called business plan. Maya squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're doing a wonderful thing, Jake." We were led into a glass-walled conference room, where Carol, my loan officer, was already waiting. Carol, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, had a no-nonsense aura and the ability to spot a fraudulent expense a mile away. I had briefed her the day before. Today, she wasn't just my loan officer, she was my co-counsel. Kevin confidently slid his folder across the polished table to her. I think you'll find this an exciting opportunity, he said. Carol didn't even glance at it. She set it aside. We'll get to that, she said crisply. But first, we need to settle an existing financial issue. My responsibility here is to my client, Mr. Henderson. Before I can advise him on taking on a $100,000 high-risk loan, we need to address his current liabilities. She turned to me. Jake, you have the documents? I placed a thick, bound folder on the table, sliding one copy to Maya and another to Kevin. What is this? Maya asked, her smile faltering. That, I said evenly, is due diligence. Open it. The very first page, the spreadsheet, $20,000 spelled out in black and white, with dates, amounts, and purposes. I watched Maya's color drain as she flipped through it. Kevin leaned in, confusion and anger replacing his smugness. What is this? This is private. No, I said. It's my bank statement. And it's why we're here. Before I can consider co-signing a loan for you, Kevin, I need to ensure my own finances are stable. As it turns out, I'm already carrying an unsecured debt, $20,000, extended to my partner, who's been funneling it directly to you. I turned to Maya. The second document in your folder is a repayment agreement, formalizing the debt you owe me. I need your signature on it. She sat frozen, mouth opening and closing, but no sound escaping. And the third document, I continued, is the dissolution of our domestic partnership. It spells out the terms of our separation, including your timeline to vacate my home, along with the accounting of our assets, which, as you know, are minimal since I've shouldered most expenses. I leaned back. Here's the situation. I won't take on new risk while stuck in a bad investment. So this is how it goes. You, Maya, will sign the repayment agreement for the $20,000. You'll also sign the dissolution agreement, ending our partnership. Once they're signed and notarized, Carol is a notary, by the way, we can discuss next steps. I turned to Kevin. As for you, once Maya is no longer my dependent and officially owes me a legally binding debt that will show up on her credit, Carol will gladly review your business plan on its own merits, with Maya as your co-signer. The trap snapped shut. Silence filled the room. Maya trembled, staring at the papers, eyes widening with horrified realization. She had walked in expecting to secure Kevin's future. Instead, she was being served the bill for her past, and eviction from her present. Kevin's expression was pure panic. He looked at Maya not with love, but with rage, the fury of a parasite cut off from its host. You can't do this, Maya whispered, tears pooling. Carol finally spoke. Her voice was bone dry. Actually, he can. Everything here is legally sound. Do you have a pen, or shall I provide one? The fallout was just as messy and satisfying as I predicted. At first, Maya refused to sign. She and Kevin stormed out. But reality caught up quickly. She had no legal ground to stand on. The evidence was airtight in my bank statements. My lawyer followed up with a letter. If she refused, I'd take her to civil court. That process would be costlier and far more public. Within a week, a signed, notarized copy of the agreements landed on my desk. Maya moved out, back to her parents. The $20,000 debt became a formal judgment, wrecking her credit. She now pays me back in small, court-ordered installments, a constant reminder of her choices. Her relationship with Kevin collapsed instantly. Once he realized she was no longer his source of money but a liability, his affection disappeared. He's now on his own, and that artisan food truck dream of his is indefinitely on hold. I didn't do this out of cruelty. I did it because it was the only logical conclusion. She had offered me a terrible deal. All risk, no return. So, I handled it like any sensible financial planner. I cut my losses, secured my assets, and divested from a doomed partnership. She wanted me to co-sign a loan to give him a fresh start. Instead, I made her sign a loan that forces her to start over. And that, to me, is what you call a sound return on investment.